Can I have a thumbs up if you answered the index card? Thank you. Okay, I think that should be enough time to have you guys answer thoroughly. Why didn't anyone believe Mosh the Beetle? And do we remember who he is in Night? He was the one who warned everyone about the Holocaust and all that, right? Mm-hmm. All right, so why don't we think anyone believed him? Jack?
Because, like, number one, I don't think anybody wanted to believe him. And then number two, I don't think, like, they've never known anything like that. So why would they believe that it's true?
Right, it's something that's never been done. It wasn't normal. So it was very hard to believe, right? Yeah? Good job. Anyone else have anything different? Why accent?
Because like he had been shot in the leg, or like everyone else was like shot in like the neck area.
Okay. So that you think that maybe he was just making up a story to make it look better that he got away. Okay. Didn't have a lot of credit, right? He was also homeless, right? People didn't really look at people without homes in the best light back then, so there was also that. But I think I like Jack's answer the best, that they didn't want to believe it, right? They kind of knew, but they were just looking away from the truth. Because, yeah, I mean, you guys read in chapter 1, they were like, I don't think it could be that bad, but they were just trying to feed themselves a lie, I guess. And so before we're going to read chapter 2 of Night. Before I do that, though, I'm going to give you guys a reading guide for some terms, because it gets pretty technical with some of the words that they use in this book concerning World War II terms and stuff like that. So I'll tell you guys the definitions to these words, and you guys will write them down and keep this paper for referencing. All right. Holocaust: destruction or slaughter on a mass scale, usually by fire or nuclear warfare.
What?
Oh. The Holocaust is destruction or slaughter on mass scale via fire and nuclear weapons. Hasidic is a mystical Jewish movement.
You guys ever seen the Hasidic Jews? They wear a curl in the front of their hair. That.
A beadle is a ceremonial officer of a church. A Gestapo is the secret Nazi police. They were the ones that did a lot of the inhumane acts.
What of the Nazi police?
Secret Nazi police. Auschwitz, you guys know that it's the death camp, extermination camp. And this was the biggest extermination camp, just for your information. You don't have to write that down. Capo is a prisoner in a concentration camp in charge of prisoners. So it's a prisoner in charge of other prisoners. And a Blockout test is a a block elder slash inmate.
A what elder?
A block elder. A Jew, person whose religion is Judaism. The Talmud is Jewish ceremonial law. Which, Mrs. Northrop, you said is like the Jewish version of the Bible,
Right,
right?
the Old Testament.
Okay. So it's a very sacred Jewish text. The Kabbalah is ancient wisdom. Ghetto is a part of a city occupied by a minority group.
Occupied by a what?
Minority group. Commando is basic organization of slave laborers. Transylvania is a region in Romania. A synagogue is a building for religious worship. And a barrack is a building used to house soldiers.
What was anti-Semitic?
Discrimination against Jews. Sorry about that. Missed that.
Probably heard that in the news a lot. A lot of people.
Discrimination
Attacks
against
on
Okay.
Twitter?
everywhere,
Oh,
yeah.
I don't know why that's a new thing going on right now.
Discrimination against
Jews?
What's the very last one?
Building housing soldiers. Oh no, that's alright. People need to know how, their reaction to it. Okay, guys, so now what we'll be doing is reading chapter 2 of Night. Does everybody have a copy with them?
There should be one on a desk.
Yeah, there's an extra one right here. No?
I'm pretty sure there's one on my desk. I should find it.
Okay.
Anyone's missing one, I have the extra one.
Good.
I need another one. Oh, there's
Alright, everyone ready? Okay. So we remember what happened at the end of chapter 1, right?
Yes, they were off on the train.
Yep, and they don't know where, but we know where, right? Okay. Lying down was out of the question, and we were only able to sit by deciding to take turns. There was very little air. The lucky ones who happened to be near a window could see the blossoming countryside roll by. After 2 days of traveling, we began to be tortured by thirst. Then the heat became unbearable. Free from all social constraint, young people gave way openly to instinct, taking advantage of the darkness to flirt in our midst, without caring about anyone else, as though they were alone in the world. The rest pretended not to notice anything. We still had a few provisions left, but we never ate enough to satisfy our hunger. Our save was our rule, to save up for tomorrow. Tomorrow might be worse. The train stopped at Kaskau, a little town on the Czechoslovak frontier. We realized then that we were not going to stay in Hungary. Our eyes were open, but too late. The door of the car slid open. A German officer, accompanied by a Hungarian lieutenant interpreter, came up and introduced himself. From this moment, you come under the authority of the German army. Those of you who still have gold, silver, or watches in your possession must give them up now. Anyone who was later found to have kept anything will be shot on the spot. Secondly, anyone who feels ill may go to the hospital car. That's all. The Hungarian lieutenant went among us with a basket and collected the last possessions from those who no longer wished to taste the bitterness of terror. There are 80 of you in this wagon, added the German officer. If anyone is missing, you'll all be shot, like dogs. They disappeared, the doors were closed. We were caught in a trap, right up to our necks. The doors were nailed up. The way back was finally cut off. The world was a cattle wagon, hermetically sealed. We had a woman with us named Madame Schachter. She was about 50. Her 10-year-old son was with her, crouched in a corner. Her husband and 2 oldest sons had been deported with the first transport by mistake. The separation had completely broken her. I knew her well, a quiet woman with tense, burning eyes. She had often been to our house. Her husband, who was a pious man, spent his days and nights in study, and it was she who worked to support the family. Madame Schachter had gone out of her mind. On the first day of the journey, she had already begun to moan and to keep asking why she had been separated from her family. As time went on, her cries grew hysterical. On the 3rd night, while we slept, some of us sitting one against the other, and some standing, a piercing cry split the silence. Fire! I see a fire! I can see a fire! There was a moment's panic. Who was it who had cried out? It was Madame Schachter. Standing in the middle of the wagon, in the pale light from the windows, she looked like a withered tree in a cornfield. She pointed her arm toward the window, screaming, "Look! Look at it! Fire! A terrible fire! Mercy! Oh, that fire!" Some of the men pressed up against the bars. There was nothing there, only the darkness. A shock of this terrible awakening stayed with us for a long time. We still trembled from it. With every groan of the wheels on the rail, we felt that an abyss was about to open beneath our bodies. Powerless to still our own anguish, we tried to console ourselves. She's mad, poor soul. Someone had put a damp cloth on her brow to calm her, but still her screams went on. Fire! Fire! Her little boy was crying, hanging on to her skirt, trying to take hold of her hands. It's all right, Mommy. There's nothing there. Sit down. This shook me even more than her mother's screams had done. Some woman tried to calm her. You'll find your husband and sons again in a few days. She continued to scream, breathless, her voice broken by sobs. Jews, listen to me. I can see a fire. There are huge flames. It is a furnace. It was as though she were possessed by an evil spirit which spoke from the depths of her being. We tried to explain it away, more to calm ourselves and to recover our own breath and to comfort her. She must be very thirsty, poor thing. That's why she keeps talking about a fire devouring her. But it was in vain. Our terror was about to burst the sides of the train. Our nerves were at a breaking point. Our flesh was creeping. It was as though madness were taking possession of us all. We could stand it no longer. Some of the young men forced her to sit down, tied her up, and put a gag in her mouth. Silence again. The little boy sat down with his mother, crying. I had begun to breathe normally again. We could hear the wheels churning out that monotonous rhythm of a train traveling through the night. We could begin to doze, to rest, to dream. An hour or two went by like this, then another scream took our breath away. The woman had broken loose from her bonds and was crying out more loudly than ever. Look at the fire! Flames! Flames everywhere! Once more the young men tied her up and gagged her. They even struck her. People encouraged them. Make her be quiet. She's mad. Shut her up. She's not the only one. She can keep her mouth shut. They struck her several times on the head, blows that might have killed her. Her little boy clung to her. He did not cry out. He did not say a word. He was not even weeping now. An endless night. Toward dawn. Madame Schachter calmed down. Crouched in her corner, her bewildered gaze scouring the emptiness, she could no longer see us. She stayed like that all throughout the day, dumb, absent, isolated among us. As soon as night fell, she began to scream, "There's a fire over there!" She would point at a spot in space, always the same one. They were tired of hitting her. The heat, the hearse, the pestilential stench, the suffocating lack of air, these were as nothing compared with these screams which tore us to shreds. A few days more and we should all have started to scream too. But we had reached a station. Those who were next to the windows told us its name, Auschwitz. No one had ever heard that name. The train did not start up again. The afternoon passed slowly. Then the wagon doors slid open. 2 men were allowed to get down to fetch water. When they came back, they told us that in exchange for a gold watch, they had discovered that this was the last stop. We would be getting out here. There was a labor camp. Conditions were good, families would not be split up, only the young people would go into the factories. The old men and invalids would be kept occupied in the fields. The barometer of confidence soared. Here was a sudden release from the tears of the previous nights. We gave thanks to God. Madame Schachter stayed in her corner, wilted, dumb, indifferent to the general confidence. Her little boy stroked her hand. As dusk fell, darkness gathered inside the wagon. We started to eat our last provisions. At 10 in the morning, everyone was looking at a convenient position in which to sleep for a while. And soon we were all asleep. Suddenly, the fire, the furnace, look over there. Waking with a start, we rushed to the window. Yet again, we had believed her, even if only for a minute, but there was nothing outside save the darkness of light. With shame in our souls, we went back to our places, gnawed by fear in spite of ourselves. As she continued to scream, they began to hit her again, and it was with the greatest difficulty that they silenced her. The man in charge of our wagon called a German officer who was walking about on the platform and asked him if Madame Schachter could be taken to the hospital car. "You must be patient," the German replied. "She'll be taken there soon." Toward 11 o'clock, the train began to move. We pressed against the windows. The convoy was moving slowly. A quarter of an hour later, it slowed down again. Through the windows, we could see barbed wire. We realized this must be the camp. We had forgotten the existence of Madame Schachter. Suddenly, we heard terrible screams. "Jews, look! Look through the window! Flames! Look!" And as the train stopped, we saw this time that flames were gushing out of a tall chimney in the black sky. Madame Schachter was silent herself. Once more, she had become dumb, indifferent, absent, and had gone back to her corner. We looked at the flames in the darkness. There was an abominable odor floating in the air. Suddenly, our doors opened. Some odd-looking characters, dressed in striped shirts and black trousers, leapt into the wagon. They held electric torches and truncheons. They began to strike out to left and right, shouting, "Everybody get out! Everyone out of the wagon! Quickly!" We jumped out. I threw a last glance toward Madame Schachter. Her little boy was holding her hand. In front of us, flames. In the air, that smell of burning flesh. It must have been about midnight. We had arrived at Birkenau, reception center for Auschwitz. So, yeah, that's a pretty intriguing chapter, right? The fellow Holocaust survivors, what were they doing to Madame Schachter?
They were trying to shut her up.
Right? And which that's kind of peculiar, right? Because here they are in this hopeless cause together, and instead of trying to encourage one another or find some kind of hope, they just were beating her up. Why do you think that might have happened? Instead of saying, oh, it's okay, I get your struggle or something like that. Any guesses?
Their minds were messed up.
Okay, yeah, they were trying to cope with it in some way.
They
Aaron?
were all going through the same thing.
They what?
They were all going through the same thing.
Yeah, they were all gonna do the same thing. Any other guesses? They couldn't do it to the Germans, right? So they had to take out that anger on someone. And they were trying to find some kind of way to cope, right? Because keep that bottled up, it messes you up, right? And they couldn't take it out on the Germans, so they just took it out on themselves, and it was a very hard time to be in. And there was a literary element in this chapter concerning fire. Does anybody know how fire was used in this chapter? Jack?
Foreshadowing.
Yup, foreshadowing. And yeah, the only one who saw that was the one that everybody thought was crazy, right? But she was the only one who was right, actually. So thank you for your participation, guys. I'm gonna hand out chapter 2. There's not too many questions on this one, so this packet that I'll be handing out, as well as the one that you guys have been working on, will be due on Wednesday. Okay?
Okay.
Yep. It's not a lot. Just whatever you guys have, plus 4 questions concerning chapter 2. However, I still want the page numbers for reference when you guys answer.
One night I went to bed at like.
Yes, but work with Josie, okay? Because we're only doing elbow partners if we're working in groups, because there's been a lot of high voice levels lately. I'm trying to bring it down. Alright? So if you guys want to work in groups or something, Megan, we won't be. Oh yeah, you'll be working with Accident. Okay. And Aaron, we'll be working with Mackie. Marco, you'll be working with Josie. Jack with Anna. Yep. Thank you, guys.
I'm slowly losing my mind. You're slowly losing my mind. So I'm excited for high school. Because my mom is teammates. She can buy my sister's school and give it to her teammates. And my sister
Well, you show me what kind you need. I'll see if I can get it. I don't know if it's room area, kitchen, for paper and stuff. Yes, yeah. You don't have to send me.
It's like moaning.
Yeah, I'll show you the video and I'll show you what I need to use eventually.
Oh, if anyone is
Oh, what's he doing now in Germany?
Oh no, this is my son in Florida.
Oh.
But he might be able to hit both of these. Okay, he's trying to hit some higher fares than I was looking for him.
Hopefully he gets them.
Yeah.
So that this is it. So
No, they have that one. No, I don't
do
do
you
that.
do a construction paper?
Yeah, but I can get more. So you need white. I think they're out of white in there. Oh, I've seen this done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never known the name of it, but just recently found out the name,
Yeah.
and then he's gonna get the paper and transfer it.
Yeah, that looks cool.
Right? And then I'm thinking you get different color inks.
Mm-hmm. Does it say what kind of ink?
It just says colored ink. That's all it says. So I don't know if there's a specific
That's what I'm wondering, cause there's those bottles like that. If there's a, in the thing underneath it,
Mhm.
the description, does it say anything about what kind?
Well, it says full activity. You'll find that right here. Or I have that pulled up actually in case it doesn't. Here's the materials. Here's the materials.
Okay, plastic container. Okay, I get that's different okay, such as Dr. P.H. Martin's Bombay India inks. Okay, I'll see if I can find. See if there's anything around here that I can feel.
Because everything else is obtainable. Right?
Well, yeah, this one I'll think
And then, yeah,
P.H.
it's, oh, no, it's 21. Page 21 is when it says, those who start school.
Bless you.
Possession must give them now, otherwise later you can reshow.
I can order them on Amazon.
Page 21.
Since you've got some other ideas for the next week.
21. It should be right down there. That paragraph. They.
Okay, guys, it's 11:22, meaning it's passing period. Get, stretch your legs. We'll come back at 11:25. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll see if I can get some on there.
Okay. Hopefully. Any good progress, guys? Are you putting the page number two?
I'm gonna have it up. And you said one of them was on 22 and the other was on 21? Because I just put 21.